Disasters. They happen to everyone, don't they? Whether it be your first directorial debut feature film that's a sequel to two beloved movies and is the beginning of a cycle of continually terrible spin-offs, a tree falling on your house, a presidential term at when you're well into your 80s, and it's obvious you have dementia, your painting career in Vienna going down the tubes, or the fact you've totally smashed the front end of your silver 2000 Subaru Impreza Outback Sport that was a manual transmission and only had 107,000 miles on it by rear-ending someone 2 hours away from the place of your residence. Yeah, that last one was me. My point being that it's hard to see the immediate good that may come out of a terrible situation, especially when it comes to movies with, let's say, troubled productions. Most times, when things are going wrong on set, those same troubles tend to find their way to the big screen and ruin the movie. But in the case of Jaws, it actually helped. I would go so far as to say that it was what catapulted the movie to be a box office hit and cemented a young Steven Spielberg's career as a stellar director. Now, you may be greatly surprised to hear this, but no, I don't hate everything. There are movies that cause a small, dark, cold little organ inside me that I recently discovered was called a heart to occasionally beat in my chest. Surprising, I know. I didn't even know what a heart was until I watched the original Lilo and Stitch. When I felt the weak thump in my chest, I went to WebMD, and aside from cancer and protein in urine, another possibility was that my heart was beating. Now, this will be my first video in a new series called Captain Salute, where I actually talk about and praise good movies. But with that said, let's dive in, shall we? Hehehehe. Jaws is an amazing movie, and probably one of my favorite Steven Spielberg films, of which there are many. It's an incredibly gritty, tense thriller that might make you afraid to go in the water. And, in fact, as of this year, it's turned 50 years old, which was something I had forgotten about till partway through writing this review. So happy anniversary to you, Jaws! Now, I was going to do an extensive breakdown of this film, but this time around I decided to do a shorter review instead. There are many things about this movie to praise. The acting, the dialogue, the script, the writing, the pacing, all of it's truly something special. The movie expertly changes between tones and can really get you to the edge of your seat. And of course, all of its flaws worked out in its favor. I'm sure most people know the troubles experienced with the mechanical shark on set, which is what led to Steven Spielberg using the eerie and mysterious first-person view from the shark. Or the tensions between Richard Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw, which made dialogue come across as more aggressive and real. But I think that one of its most praiseworthy elements is that at its very heart, Jaws is an underdog story. Martin Brody at first glance is not the obvious hero. He's a man who's afraid of the water and yet has taken a job on an island. When he's with an expert fisherman and a heavily educated oceanographer, he's not the one you'd think would kill the shark. Instead of coming across as a position of authority, everyone around him in the town seems to see him more as simply as a servant. He's a man treated as though he's just filling a role, more like a security guard instead of chief of police. He's not the typical confident sheriff character. He doesn't get the recognition he deserves from those around him. He's seen somewhat as an outcast, and that probably has something to do with the fact that he and his family are not islanders. They're not one of them. He's not one of them. I think this is highlighted especially when he tries to use his authority at first to close the beaches after the killing of Chrissy Watkins. The mayor and the other high-ranking town officials try to use red tape to bind him up and stop him, by bringing up the fact that he needs a committee vote and that there's all these sorts of hoops that he'll have to jump through. What's even more amazing, though, is he's the one to organize the charter to go out onto the ocean to hunt the shark. He doesn't choose to just let Quint handle the situation by himself, but instead he chooses to go out with them to kill the shark. He's a man concerned more with the people he's sworn to protect than the money. At one point, he and Hooper are out on the water, and Brody drunkenly confesses that when he was a New York cop, it felt like he was accomplishing nothing. But in a small place like Amity, a man can make a difference. And that's what Brody really wants. The man just wants to make a difference. And he's just that, a man who is doing his best to try and protect the people he's supposed to serve. But ultimately, he keeps buckling to pressure from his superiors. When the town council initially meets, Brody regrettably states that they have to close the beaches. The mayor, however, interjects that it will only be for 24 hours. Brody looks back at the mayor looking betrayed and shocked. What's sad is he's not even backed up by others in authority around him, especially when a young boy was just eaten alive in front of him on the beaches. He chooses to remain silent to his own detriment. Instead of fighting back harder and standing his ground, he folded into the pressure. By continually falling short, the man who wants to make a difference allows for the deaths of one other person besides the young boy, Alex Kittner. Speaking of Alex Kittner, that's another amazing character moment with Brody. When the tiger shark is first caught, everyone is so happy and joyful until Mrs. Kittner comes and confronts Brody by slapping him across the face. She blames Brody for the death of her son, and Brody stares silently, ashamed, realizing he is in fact responsible. Alex cannot be brought back, and Brody is more than likely thinking about it if it were one of his own sons. It's the reason why he doesn't want his own son sitting in the boat on the water, but at the same time he doesn't want him to become terrified of the water like he is from drowning. Brody sees himself at fault for not pushing back harder to close the beaches, but he's still not someone to shy away. When push comes to shove, he takes responsibility for Alex's death, even when told by the mayor that Mrs. Kittner was wrong by simply and solemnly stating,
"No, she's not."
And it shows even more after the swimming instructor dies. This is the moment Brody has dreaded since his own son came so close to being a victim of this terrible beast himself, and he's had enough of the inaction. It's especially a strong moment for Brody as he forcefully pulls the mayor behind a curtain and demands for him to sign the contract to hire Quint. During the second act of the movie, when they're out on the water hunting for the shark, Brody at one point admits to Quint that he's never even steered a boat before. At multiple moments, he's obviously terrified of not only the water, but the shark as well. He refuses to go out to the end of the ship so Hooper can get a size comparison to the shark for pictures. At another moment, when they're in the ship eating dinner, Hooper and Quint begin to try to one-up one another on scars by exchanging painful and scary mighty tales on how they got them. Brody, meanwhile, looks at a small scar on his stomach silently and quietly, likely from an appendix operation. He bears a look of shame and embarrassment. He's not the one with great tales of accomplishment and wonder. He's not the obvious and mighty hero. And this is what makes Brody so special. He's not the most valuable hand on the ship, and yet he's the one to kill the beast when it comes down to it. He has to rise to the challenge when all seems hopeless by climbing up the crow's nest on board a sinking ship. He has to be the one to take the shot when everyone else's plans and equipment have failed. And he's the one to deliver the killing blow. Greatness and acts of might can come from anywhere. With all that said, this is probably one of my biggest reasons for recommending this movie. Don't get me wrong, though, there's plenty of other amazing character elements in this movie besides Brody, like Quint and Hooper, and yes, even the mayor. All of them are written consistently and tightly, and there's more behind their writing and their acting than putrid shows like Cold as Ironheart. Every scene has a purpose, and every word of dialogue feels real. The movie always manages to keep me engaged, especially after I've seen it 1,000 times. Good grief, I love the movie this much that I would just want to go watch it again. And let's not forget the spectacular soundtrack delivered by John Williams, one of the greatest composers of all time. On another note, I will say probably one of the only weaknesses this movie has is the fake shark, but even that isn't too bad. This is why Jaws gets the Captain Salute. If you haven't seen this movie already, take the time and go watch it. It's well worth the 2 hours and 10 minutes of your time. Once again, thank you for watching. If you have any thoughts or critiques, feel free to share them below. God bless you.